After this week's episode, I'm convinced Marvel also used AI to write Secret Invasion. This is the Review of Champions, and I'm your host, Grandmaster. With me is a powerful panel made up of the finest champions Sakar has to offer. Let me introduce them to you. On camera, with his beautiful face, once again, Merv. How are you, man?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. Voice only, we have Lokismom. How are you?
Doing real well.
And returning for this week's episode review, Mr. Lord Death Man. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
That's great to hear. Today we are going to talk about episode 5 of Secret Invasion called Harvest. But before we do, I want to ask you all to help us out. Like and share this video and subscribe to our channel. And if you really can't get enough of us, you can join our ranks. Go to Scar at scar.freeforums.net, set up an account, get to know us, and yes, join us in our reviews and podcasts. We would love to have you on the show. Consider this your final warning. After this point, the spoilers are incoming. So if you haven't seen this week's episode yet, go do that first and then come back to see this review. Well, how to summarize episode 5 of Secret Invasion. Fury and Graphic are preparing for the final showdown. I think that captures it. No funny questions this time. We're just going to dive right into it. Lokismom, I will start with you. Can I have your quick thoughts on Harvest, episode 5 of Secret Invasion?
Well, my quick thoughts are that it was not quite as bad as last week's. It was I think as far as some of the scene work, it was better. I mean, particularly the final scenes where it kind of got a little more taunt and more intriguing. I wish they would have just put that harvest idea up front in the beginning, and then I think it would have worked better. But anyway, still not really that enthused about it, but yeah, not quite as bad as it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, episode 5 is a little bit late to introduce the MacGuffin of the show. Lord Deathman, were you impressed with Harvest, episode 5?
Certainly not. Yeah, my quick impressions of it is this episode really punctuates the failure of the entire series to really capitalize on the source material. And this is coming from someone who's not a huge fan of the source material, so I think that's saying something. But that being said, we're one episode out. Unless they give us everything in that last episode, not only do I have to say that this episode was a fairly massive disappointment, but overall the series is as well.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, but I will get to that in a minute. Merv, your quick thoughts. Do you agree writing is a little bit shaky?
Yes, shaky would be putting it mildly. I actually had to try to stop myself from noticing the flaws in the writing or the plot contrivances and stuff during this episode, so that's never a good thing when I have to convince myself that to take heed of the fun parts of the episode instead of noticing all the bad parts. It wasn't really great. And it sucks that there's only one episode left, and I see absolutely no way that they're going to write this ship in one episode, but that's for next week's conversation, I assume. So,
no doubt. Personally, I thought it was even worse than last week's episode. I thought it was absolute trash. It made no sense whatsoever, and I'd rather watch Wonder Woman than episode 5 of Secret Invasion, and that says a lot. let's take a little bit of a deeper dive. I've already commented on the writing and that it didn't really make sense. And well, on the board it was professionally ripped apart, and we're gonna do that again, I assume. So, who wants to get started? Lord Deathman, you can start.
Well, I thank you for the privilege of starting what is likely to be a roast of this episode rather than a review. But where to start? I alluded to in my quick thoughts that this series really just doesn't live up to the expectations of the source material. I think that that's probably the biggest problem, but there are lots of little problems in terms of just logical fallacies going on. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and go through the litany of things that just didn't make sense in this episode, but to give an example, there is what should be a very thrilling scene of Gaia and Fury's wife sort of confronting some of Gravik's forces at the Fury home. And at some point, they go to a dresser drawer to get knapsacks that are loaded with weapons, and there's a shootout and people rappelling from surfaces that I don't know where they would be on this structure to get in and fight these people. And I'm like, okay, just a couple of episodes back, Fury's wife, Priscilla, sort of had to go to the world's most elaborate safe deposit box to get a single gun to assassinate her husband. But by this episode, she manages to have a huge cache of weapons in the house that could have been used to assassinate her husband. I just don't know what they're doing here. There's weird tonal shifts in this episode. But I think one of the biggest travesties of it is just the writing. It's the writing is just so bad. And I was kind of on board at the beginning when I thought they were trying to create something that was genre appropriate, that they were looking into intrigues, and they were gonna sort of do something that was a bit more dramatic rather than a big bombastic superhero show. And I could have taken that approach. I know a lot of the fans would not have been down to sit down and watch people just talk about this conflict rather than actually fight it out. But yeah, this is bad writing. The Scrody, just what is happening in that confrontation with Fury, where he's pretty much giving up the whole game. Yeah. Like I said, you could go on in an endless litany of some things that were wrong in this episode that didn't make sense. I'm sure if Taylor was here, he'd probably have a large inventory of them. But the biggest thing is that really surprises me that I want to go into for the deep dive here is that I read from reliable sources that they spent $212 million on this Disney Plus show. And I just don't see it. I mean, there's 5 episodes of people talking in kitchens, talking in bars, talking in cafeterias, a lot of talking, and the sporadic action scene here and there. But $212 million is a bigger budget than most Marvel theatrical features. So unless Sam Jackson has increased his fees significantly, I'm hard pressed to think of where this money actually went. Even if you factor in the difficulty and the logistics of filming, near or around the pandemic, even with the new protocols, it just seems like unless the next episode is worth $211 million, I just don't know what happened here. This is, in my mind, the biggest misfire that Disney Plus has brought to us out of the Marvel series. And I'm finally starting to come on board with those who might be saying that Disney Plus, not it being a mistake, but that they certainly do have to ease up on making these shows, because there's no point in doing something like Secret Invasion if this is how it's going to be handled. And yeah, it comes around the time when I feel we got what looks like a fairly disappointing trailer for the Marvels. Um, Not going to say that looks bad, but there's certainly something weird going on in terms of the production design on that show, as I talked about on the board. So all around, this is a disappointment. And even though you got great acting in the episode, it was just not enough to save this from all of the other things that were wrong with the episode. I'm not holding out any kind of hope for that last episode. I'm not going to be the one that says, oh, maybe there's going to be a Hail Mary there. There's just no way it can be done. Or I don't think that there's a way to salvage this this series. But I do think that at least episode 6 will make a nice headstone on the grave of whatever this was as an attempt to adapt that material.
Another gravestone for Nick Fury somewhere. Well, I'm just going to say it. It started with the scene in the hospital, Merv, where Nick Fury is sitting with a gun in front of a door, protecting the president, and within the first 5 seconds of resistance, he decides to walk away and let the Skrulls have the president, which already is making no sense at all. I mean, normally speaking, Nick Fury would have called like Secret Service and himself or whoever and got, I don't know, Scotland Yard there with 100 policemen. But anyway, it just doesn't make any sense. That was just a start. And to come back to Lord Deathman, before I go to you for your deep dive, Merv, I think they spent like 150 million on the world's most elaborate dresser. Anyway.
Yes.
But anyway, Merv, take it away.
Yeah. So I rewatched this episode and I started writing down all the problems that I saw as they were happening. So I did take notes and bear with me for a minute because I'm probably going to go on a rant here. But okay, problem number 1. Whenever Fury drops the president off, he sees a news report that the UK news already has that shows an American soldier helping Talos in Skrull form, which we know is Gravik, but the media doesn't know that. And it's on UK news already, and it's from an angle that could have only been captured by Fury or one of the other soldiers at that motorcade. So I don't know where the reporters were taking these shots, but 1, how'd they get that shot? And 2, how does this twist into the Skrulls are helping the Russians when there's video footage, or a picture at least, of the Americans working with an American soldier helping a Skrull, an exposed alien Skrull, in the media already. So that right there just throws that flaw out there. Okay. Gravik is upset the president is dead and immediately changes his mind to let the president live for some reason. When in the very next scene, as you already mentioned, Grandmaster, Fury backed down from Scrody after like a 4-second exchange just because Fury's wanted level went up. And it's like, well, didn't you expect something like this would happen? Like, what was your plan here? Like, and also what's the point? So if he's going to walk away and basically leave the president to be executed, like, then what was the point of any of the last stuff in the motorcade, getting him out of there and making sure he doesn't die? Like, that just goes right out the window. And Fury has zero idea at this point that Gravik changed his mind and isn't going to kill the president when he very well could have. And then it's back to plan A, which is what their intention was to begin with. So it's just like, it's a lot of nonsensical stuff happening just to make sure that the president survives this situation, whenever honestly he should have been killed immediately, or Fury should have, put out a little bit more fight than, slapping Scrody with the butt of his pistol and then walking away, leaving the president at the mercy of the Skrulls at that point. It's just like, well, what was the point of any of this? Like, you didn't do anything here other than just make yourself look like an idiot. So that annoyed me. And that was just within the first 7 minutes of this episode. So Sonya in the next scene. Sonya is probably the only highlight of this episode. I love her character. I've loved it since she first showed up. She has like 2 really cool scenes here, and then like she's with Fury later on. That's good, but it's not special. But she's great in both her scenes here. But she does exactly what Fury should have done, which is shoot the Skrull that she knows in the leg to expose his Skrullness to the nearest people and say, hey, look, this guy's a Skrull. Maybe we should put him under arrest, throw him in a cell, and he shouldn't be in charge of anything. Why didn't Fury do that with Scrody? He had him at gunpoint. He could have easily used him as a shield, shot him in the leg, or otherwise cut off his finger or something. He had to have known Scrody was coming. Like, I don't understand what Fury was thinking in this situation. And I don't think it's going to get resolved. I think it's just bad writing. Like, I don't think there's going to be like an epiphany, like, oh, well, this is why he didn't do all the stuff that he should have done. I just think it was bad writing. So Sonya looks great in her scene, but it immediately makes me think that how stupid Fury looked in his scene right before that. So I'm even more annoyed, even though Olivia Colman's great and the character Sonya is great. And also, we know that the Skrulls bleed purple. So it didn't have to be like, a shot or anything. He could have just cut his face a little bit, apparently, and he would have bled purple. Like, we've seen the Skrulls bleeding purple. Okay, so how does Gaia get Talos's body back? And how does she do it so quick? It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know where Talos's body was, but this is like at least a day later. And the president of America has been attacked on a Russian road. There's no way that his body's just sitting there in the road, easy to take. I don't really need an intricate scene detailing like her masquerading as several individuals to infiltrate like a Russian bunker, presumably, where they'd keep an alien corpse. But like, that's the kind of stuff that it's like, how did she get it? She shouldn't have been able to get it, especially not by herself that easily. Like, I don't understand how that happened. So that immediately just made me annoyed. There's just all these scenes over and over in this episode that I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. And they're just pushing the plot forward just to get to the end, which at this point I'm thankful for, because I just can't wait for it to end. Like, I just be done with it. And I guess we'll hold out hope for the next thing. Sonya's scene with the Daltons, or the Dr. Dalton or whatever, I thought that was great again. Whenever she just shoots him in the head, I'm like, thank you. There is at least one spy who's doing what I think they should be doing in these scenes. And that's Sonya. Her character's great. Got no complaints about her. Nice cameo by Rick Mason. If anybody even remembered who he was from Black Widow, he's a very, very side character in that. But he shows up again here. It's nice, those little tie-ins, but I wasn't like jumping out of my seat for Rick Mason, but it's a nice little thing.
People are hoping for Quake. Quake stands are really upset already, but they get at least Mason.
And I will say, the episode ends on kind of like another complaint that it's only mildly annoying to me, but I know Lord Deathman knows what I'm talking about. But that mausoleum, all the drawers opening, and there's one drawer that holds his eye patch, and another drawer that holds his gun, and another drawer. They could have all held, like, the same drawer could have held all these things. But I got one even better for you, because I rewatched that scene a bunch of times because I was just curious. It seems like it's the same drawer opening over and over again. Several times when they cut away and show him opening the drawer, it's the same drawer on the wall. So all of his stuff I picture in the background is like a CD changer, where it's just like it rotates forward and he opens it up, and then he rotates forward. So I don't know what else is in there, but it's just the same drawer over and over. It's the same detail marble sketch on the wall. I rewatched it way too many times because I was really curious. Like, is he opening different drawers, or is he just opening the same one?
It's
And
like an automat.
Yeah, I believe it's the same drawer, which makes me laugh.
There's probably a sandwich in there.
Yeah, there's got to be something, There's got to be something.
Maybe Talos's body was in there. Oh, no, never mind.
Whatever else was in there, it's not going to be able to save this show, though, unfortunately, because my excitement for it, I mean, you can go back to episode 1 and 2. I was like pretty high on this, and it's just been a downhill climb, drop ever since that. In this episode, aside from there's some good acting, and there's a decent action. I got real no complaints about the action. I just don't know what the plot is doing. Like, the writing and the plot are just killing me at every turn, and I just can't ignore it.
I had another annoyance.
Yeah.
Do you think that Sonya Falsworth, in her capacity as a spy, and she's a master spy, she shows that over and over again all out through the show, she isn't aware that Nick Fury is married to an alien and they live in London, her country? Fuck. Oh, no, that's not possible. Come on.
I'm waiting for them to ruin her character in the next episode, because right now she's like almost the only redeeming quality for me. And they're gonna it's gonna be revealed that she's actually like Soren or something, and I'm just gonna look back and go, what? You know what I mean? I know that's gonna happen, and I'm hating every minute of it. But you know, that's my consensus. I just also want to say that the deflated feeling of Talos's death, because we got Maria Hill's death and Gaia's death earlier, really just like, I wasn't even expecting him to be dead in this one. I thought maybe he would somehow be alive, and then like they give him a funeral scene, which evoked almost no emotion from me, because I just don't know what they're doing here. Like they're just, I don't know, that like maybe that's the tonal things you guys were talking about, but like I get no like real excitement or depression from like any of these scenes. I'm just like watching stuff happen, and it's just, every once in a while, like Sonya's character gets me up out of my seat a little bit, but like everything else, I'm just sitting there falling asleep, kind of.
Yeah, Mr. 5D, we need more Olivia Colman. I hope Lokismom will give a little bit more positive review. Otherwise, we may get blacklisted by Marvel. Not that we care. But before I go to you, Lokismom, I first see a follow-up from Lord Deathman, and so let's give him the floor for one more moment.
Yeah, just one quick moment. I just wanted to, first off, great review. Great discussion about this, guys, and I'm just glad that we as diehard Marvel fans are able to kind of talk about this stuff in a frank way when they don't deliver, because that's what happened here. But I also just wanted to talk about some of the things that like tonally jarred me. Like I believe there was a scene, and I tried to watch this episode a second time, and I got maybe 15 minutes into it, and I couldn't do it. It was just like, between thinking about how silly it was going to get and scrutinizing the issues with it even closer, couldn't do it. But there were things like, there was the big attack at the house, but right before that, we'd seen this moment of the two women trying to bond together about Talos's death, and that whole scene that Merv was just talking about, where they had to burn the mannequin that represented his body, and all of this other nonsense that happened there. And I just wanted to echo Merv's sentiments that I really felt nothing over Talos's death, and didn't even really see why anyone would want to revisit it here. It served no purpose, as in, if was it supposed to be a demonstration of Skrull culture, so we get an example of their burial rituals and what this death really means to them as a family member. Neither of them, take on their own skin to perform this ritual. We hear a little bit of Skrullos language coming out of the Elder, but nothing. I mean, okay, this is a Viking funeral pyre. Then we're moving on to the next scene. And there were so many, first we're doing a dramatic thing. We're on the plane having a conversation about this. And then we move over to almost what I would say were semi-comical action scenes. And I know some people are giving a little bit more credit to the action scenes than I would in this episode, but I didn't think much of them at all. So I just wanted to say that the jarring shifts between things like that, you're talking to somebody at a grave about your wife and how she is a Skrull, and Sonya, who is the sharpest tool in this god awful shed, is surprised that Nick Fury had a wife. I'm like, why are you surprised? Because you didn't know, or because it just seems real freaky that a human being would be married to a Skrull? Like, there's just no way to get into what they actually mean with some of these scenes, or what they're supposed to be doing. But that's my last rant for the episode.
Yeah. Well, one thing is clear. Marveltards, no more. Lokismom, you can give us a little bit of positivity, I hope.
Yeah, well, I guess the reputation's riding on me. Yeah, I can't disagree with anything that's been said. I mean, the writing is below pedestrian. It's at kindergarten crosswalk, pretty much. I mean, it's the type of plots and whatnot that you would expect it in a Marvel TV show, low budget, produced on the burgeoning Fox network.
It's a
30
school
years
play.
ago. that level of script. But I think the old Incredible Hulk was better than this. But anyway, aside from that, Olivia Colman was just marvelous, and I love that red. She's just in every scene. She's got those bright colors on, and everybody else is sort of drab and everything. So she just really pops. And I think they maybe spent that budget on the actors. I mean, when you think they got Ben Mendelsohn, Olivia Colman, Samuel L. Jackson, I guess some of the other actors, I've never really seen them much. I don't know how much they're getting. But anyway, just those three alone, I'm sure we're taking a big chunk out of Disney there. I would totally agree that Disney is not been good. I think Secret Invasion was supposed to be the kickoff, wasn't it, for the second or the third set of TV shows. It's not a good start. Like you say, we got one more episode on. It looks pretty grim at this point. I did like the action scene. I liked it in the house. I mean, it was somewhat inane. I mean, there's no point in. I agree. How did she get the body? Why were they're doing that? I guess it was to get those two together so that they could have this shootout and whatever. We'll see what's going to happen with them next week. But then when it finally did get to the whole shebang, I guess is what the Skrulls are trying to get. They're really what they're wanting is to get that serum or whatever it is that Nick has hidden in that tombstone. So that they can build that Skrull copy set of the Avengers, which maybe is going to factor down the road. I don't know. Maybe that's the whole point of this. But if it is, they have just done a piss poor job of doing it. Other than that,
they introduced this crucial thing, which basically is the reason why Graphic is in episode 5.
Yeah. I mean, should have been right up front. Yeah.
Yeah. There was no talk about the harvest before this episode. It makes no sense at all.
I mean, just barely hinted at it. I think in one scene she's with that old crappy whatever they have, those old IBMs or whatnot. I guess because they're trying to stay off the grid or whatever. They've built their own network, so she's looking at stuff on some charts and whatnot, whatever it is on the computer, and I guess that's what she's looking for, to see if they have the DNA for all the for Captain America and Iron Man and all those guys, so if they can reconstruct them. You Skrulls can then totally reconstruct them from the molecular level up, so they'll be unable to be telling from the real ones.
Yeah.
That's probably the only bright spot in this whole thing that we did, that okay, if that's what's coming, yay. I mean, I think we all would love to see that. But, whether it'll pan out, who knows? I mean, at this point, the way they just keep jumbling stuff up, I don't think they even know what they're doing at this point.
Yeah, it does feel like it. That's why my opening statement said, it feels like AI has written this whole show. But anyway. Or the writers were on strike and they kind of had to. But anyway, we'll see. Merv, you had a follow-up.
Yeah, just, to reiterate or touch on something that Loki's mom said. If they would have just given a post-credit scene in anything of the last year that would have shown a Skrull or whatever collecting DNA from the battle scene post-Endgame, which they could have done behind anything, and it would have just been, it would have just obviously been leading to this. It would have, it wouldn't have saved the show at this point, I don't think, because it's just one thing. But it would have filled us audience members in on some semblance of what the plot is coming into it, and I just think it would have made it. So now the Skrulls have superhero DNA. Why are they? What are they doing there? And it would have. Again, I don't think it would have saved it, but stuff like that, those kind of tie-ins and those post-credit scenes are more important, I think, to the MCU as a whole than whether or not they eat at a hot dog house afterward, or I don't know, one of the numerous other, kind of dead end post-credit scenes that you could think about. And I'm not saying that would have saved it, but just that little piece coming into this, or any kind of a build up to this, I think could have, and this goes for all their shows, like any kind of build up to any of their shows at this point would go a long way towards making them more digestible, I think.
Yeah, I think only Hawkeye got built up in the movie, Black Widow, and Loki season 2 got built up in Quantumania, and that's about it, I think. And I don't know if The Incredible Star-Lord will be a movie or a series. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Loki's mom, you had a follow-up on Merv?
Well, yeah, it's actually that crypt scene where, and I'm actually looking at it right now, where Nick Fury goes in to get all of his little odds and ends. I was just sort of looking at the designs. It's like a cat, and then, but there's runes. There's actual runes all around. So now, where do the runes come from? That throws us back to Asgard. So,
Yeah,
we'll see. A little hint, maybe.
We'll see. I think we have been roasting this episode for too long already. You know what? We're going to double down on it by doing a rating. And I'm starting with Merv. Merv, can I have your number, please?
Yep. It probably won't feel like it, but I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. And it probably would be lower if not for Olivia Colman. And that's just where I'm at with this series at the moment.
Okay. Loki's mom.
Well, I sort of said off the top that this one I thought was a little better than last week's episode. I don't think you guys saw, so that's okay. I'll just go ahead and stay with a 6 then. I can't really go any lower since I've already committed.
Well, it's never too late to change your mind, but I admire your persistence. Lord Deathman, may I have your number, please?
Yeah, this is a 3. That is a 3 out of 10, just so that there's no confusion. And I think the only thing that even warranted the 3 was, to some extent, Sonya, and she is a very entertaining character, and she actually is fulfilling the role that normal Nick Fury would fulfill in this series. But I just didn't think it was enough to save this episode. The other reason would be because we actually saw some of that the tech that Black Widow used in the Winter Soldier in terms of disguising herself as one of the councilmen. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool to remind me of something that I really liked in this shared universe. I momentarily had a moment of hope when I saw that, but then I had to watch the rest of the episode. So this is a 3 out of 10.
I think this is the lowest rating you ever given on our show.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to go 2 out of 10. And it only gets 1 point extra because of Olivia Colman's Sonya Falsworth. She is the absolute saving grace of this show, but there's nothing to save. I think this is by far the worst I've seen Marvel Studios do. And yeah, I sat through the Dark World multiple times. And I actually like the Dark World, so don't get me wrong. But besides the animated shows, which are not made for me or I just don't like, this is the absolute worst live action they did. And
well, we can actually say She-Hulk was it.
Yeah, well,
but at least She-Hulk gave us a lot of good laughs at points,
Yeah, but I think the writing in She-Hulk was better than in Secret Invasion.
Yeah, it was. Actually, it was.
And that had actually a final episode where they actually commented on the writing themselves that it was bad. So. Yeah. I just hope they don't break the fourth wall again in this show, because then I don't know if I can give it even a 1 out of 10 next week. But anyway,
Yeah,
it's.
I don't think they can stick their tongue in their cheek on this show and save it or
no.
try to save it like they did with She-Hulk.
No.
The real tragedy of this, guys, is that any criticism that you want to levy at the MCU, fine. It's too funny sometimes. They're not keeping up with the continuity. They don't get the best performances. They're not great storytellers, whatever you want to say. But they've never just sort of taken source material in name only and then done some garbage like DC would do. And Secret Invasion would be the first time they've ever just flat out made a joke, I think, out of the source material, and not a funny joke,
Yeah.
but in that someone just didn't read that comic book. That somebody got a basic premise in the writer's room. Yeah, it's about shape-shifting aliens. They're going to change into different people, and they're going to cause a lot of confusion. But that was probably the depth of the research or the look at the source material that happened with this adaptation.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. I'm sorry, I can't make anything more of it. Before we really get depressed here, that will conclude this review of Champions for Harvest, episode 5 of Secret Invasion. We hope you have enjoyed our discussion today, if that was possible. But anyway, if you did, you can help us out. Like and share this review and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you really want more of us, you can join our ranks. Sakar.freeforms.net. It's waiting there for you. We would love it if you join us there. For now, I want to thank you all also on behalf of our champions and wish you to be safe and be well. Goodbye.